Welcome to the ANZ Learning Club. I've got good news and I've got bad news. The bad news, I forgot to hit record on our session with Tom Hughes. Yes, I had one job to do. The good news, Phil Ruby recorded the audio. Let's face it, our faces weren't the golden nuggets anyway. Psst, you're about to hear how Tom's mindset on lean flipped, how he transformed organizations, and how improvement starts with I came to life. It's basically a gold mine without the hard hat. So plug in, soak it up, and let's grow together.
Whatever the F you're reading, stop reading it and read this. You need to read this now. Paul got the whole pull, not push. He'd been pushing lean. That was his problem. And he'd been really struggling with it. And once he got that mindset shift, everything changed. So I want to really dive deep into this because it's so important. It's the leadership behavior that matters. The change has to start with the leader and the leadership team, I will also say. Doesn't matter how much education or recognition you do. If people aren't engaged in the process, that's why it's first. So you have to get engagement, right? That's another massive issue that I see, is people in general want everything too fast. Lean is all about connecting. It's about connecting with your people and your people building connections with each other. The biggest single leadership behavior that I would recommend, and this has only really become clear to me in the last few months, a leader being able to go stop and fix this.
Hey there. I started this channel with one goal, to help people grow people. But here's the thing. Growth isn't a solo journey.
The best
leaders,
teams, and businesses
thrive because
they learn
and grow
together.
And that's what we're building here. So if that sounds like something worth being a part of, hit subscribe, because the more of us there are, the more we can invest in learning together. Let's grow together. G'day everybody from Down Under. We've got today's Learning Club with Tom Hughes, the one and only lean maniac, who's written two books there. He's done it all. He's seen it all, and he's going to pass that knowledge on to us. So we're going to be covering Improvement Starts with I, one of the crucial books if you want to move your lean journey going forward. And so Tom's going to tell us a little bit about himself and his journey, and then we're going to jump into questions and we're going to get a lot of value out of this. So there's also a chat room. So guys, if you have any questions as he's speaking, if you think of things, put it down there. We can ask it at the end. So Tom, over to you. Let's start the Learning Club.
Okay, guys. So good morning. Thanks for having me. We're going to jump straight into a very short presentation. I'm Tom Hughes, and I wrote this book, Improvement Starts with I, and we're going to just have a little bit about me and my background and kind of partly how I got to writing the book. So about me, I grew up here in Northern Ireland, farm in the middle of nowhere, and then made the big change and went to Birmingham University in England. And that's Birmingham area has been the heartland of the UK automotive industry. And I spent 10 years in that automotive industry in quality, supplier development, purchasing functions. And pretty much all that time I was working with the Japanese transplants, especially Nissan, Toyota, and lesser extent Honda. So it was a real great school. And we were practicing lean techniques before they were called lean commonly in Europe. And so it was a fantastic place to grow up. At that time, one of my fellas in my cap, I was one of the youngest quality managers in the UK in the automotive industry at the age of about 25. One of the points I want to make with this little about me, from a very early age, I was carrying out organization change. So right back here, we were implementing quality systems. In that first managerial job in my mid-20s, I was the youngest person in the factory practically. And I was running a department. And we were moving from an old style of quality management, which is very inspection and quality control focused, into a quality assurance kind of methodology and implementing the cutting edge world-class practices that were around at that time. So organization change is in my DNA. Next, I went back to Ireland and did an MBA at Trinity College in my early 30s. And I started as an employee with this company, O'Lear, and they were a sleeping giant in hydraulics. At the time when I joined, they were about $60 million turnover. 10 years later, we did a buyout about 2 years into that, and we grew it to a $200 million business, highly profitable on 16 geographies. And that organization change journey was taking it from what one of the old heads said at the beginning of that was, we're a bunch of friendly competitors. All the different geographies used to compete against each other for the same business. Absolutely no global thinking going on. And we moved that culture to be really seamless. We really had a strong, strong global group culture, 650 people. And that's not easy to do. And I was very fortunate. I was mentored by a guy who used to mentor Fortune 500 CEOs in change, guy Angus MacLeod that I reference in the book. He was a huge influence on me and our management team. And I learned so much from him. And that the quote that people pick up from my book, "Change the People, Change the People," did not come from me. I heard it from Angus MacLeod, and I'm not sure Angus came up with it himself. but again, change, change, change. Then after we exited O'Lear, I was a millionaire for a while. And got into doing things. I didn't want to travel. In the O'Lear job, I was traveling 200 flights a year, minimum, 10 years of doing that. And I wanted to change of pace and get more family focused. I got into software. I did set up this company in India, but it wasn't very successful. We had three not successful digital startups, all in the altruistic fundraising space, a space I didn't know much about, but my heart wanted to help the world. Yeah, I used to think that was a waste of time, but as you'll see later, it wasn't. And then partly because that wasn't being successful, and genuinely because I just missed it. I went back into manufacturing and engineering about 6 years ago, and that was when I first came across 2-second lean. And it was an absolute game changer. We're going to go into that in a little bit more detail. So I did one lean transformation with that initial company. Then I got a bit of a name in Northern Ireland because that was a pretty special transformation. I got asked to coach other companies, and then I also did Lumen Electronics and moved that up a level too. And then since then, I wrote that book, Improvement Starts With I, because I felt I could offer something to the world to help people do 2-second lean, because I was really fed up with people observing what I call firework lean initiatives, where it sparkles for a few months and then dies out. And who are they still practicing lean? And that really bothered me. So that's why I wrote that book, was the initial motivation. And I started Gambadox about 4 years ago. That was another fix what bugs you. We were trying to implement work instructions and standard work in our business. I was using Excel and Word and PowerPoint like I'd done countless times before. My business partner, Patrick, said, "Why are you doing that? And don't you have a software company?" And the rest is history. So we now have getting on for 1,000 customers now. We're really growing very fast, 30 plus countries, 12 languages, etc. So it's been a great success story. So Improvement Starts With I. The basic structure of the book is the introduction, which is it's pretty close to being a chapter, the introduction. And then the 5 C's: candor, commitment, coaching, consistency, continuous learning. And that was the first edition. And I believe, Edwin, you've got lots of very smart people that are going to take you, the learning club, through these chapters over the coming weeks. When I did the second edition update, that was basically about 18 months after the first book was released. And it was just a lot of learning that I gathered in that interim period, especially mentoring other companies. And I did some paid consultancy work, which I tried to avoid doing, but I did learn an awful lot doing that. So that's what the postscripts are to each chapter in the second edition. And they turned into the 7 golden rules of lean transformation. They were the points that sometimes I'd already made them in the first edition, but I didn't feel they were strongly enough put. So I really emphasized them in the postscripts. So since the book was released, it's been 7,000 plus streams on YouTube, over 2,000 listens on Lean Play, 1,000 plus physical books. Lord knows how many free PDFs have been downloaded because we give them away on improvementstartswithI.com. And up until the last couple of months, we weren't tracking it at all. And then, very kindly and very flatteringly, volunteers have translated the book into Spanish, Portuguese, German, Ukrainian, and Dutch. And we've even had my second book, Great Process, is also translated into Mandarin. So it's the biggest compliment anyone could ever pay me, is to take their time to translate the book. It takes a lot of time. Some of those people actually did audio versions as well. So it's a tribute to the work that people feel strongly enough to serve the community by taking the time out to do that. So the book, it does something, or people wouldn't bother doing that. So now we're just going to go into the little origin story of this whole 2-second lean renaissance for me. It was at this place in Northern Ireland, the management team and I reached an agreement where I was going to go in and, I won't say turn it around, because the business wasn't making a lot of money, but the problem was it was making exhausts for the aftermarket automotive, and it wasn't. With electrification and everything else, the market was declining and we needed to find new things. That's what I thought the brief was when I turned up. It was, let's find new markets, new customers for their technology. That's what I thought. Because my previous last role at O'Lear was a commercial director. Anyway, day one, I get to my desk and the guys say, we want you to implement lean. It hadn't really been talked about before. And I was like, what? I wasn't too best pleased about this. This is my reaction. I was literally horrified, because how I saw lean from my all that experience of the automotive, and then we've been practicing it at O'Lear and all the other companies just at a different level, was that this is what lean looked like. And we needed consultants, and we needed specific improvement facilitators and continuous improvement people. And we needed a team, and there was lots of KPIs, and who's going to collect all the KPIs? And we're going to do audits, 5S audits, and who's going to do all that? And where's my team? And there was no resource. So I was really horrified. And again, genuinely, I felt this is below my pay grade. That's a shop floor thing. I'm not doing that. That's below my pay grade. That's genuinely, that was my level at that time, right? And then luckily for me, so I saw it as a super effective set of tools, and we'd really employed them in organizations, both in automotive and O'Lear. Just to give you an O'Lear case study, our French factory, when I first joined O'Lear and I ran it for a while, it was barely scratching break even. And when we sold the company, it was now, we did 3 times the sales with a smaller overhead structure. And it was the most profitable unit in the business. It was doing about 20% return on sales. And we were practicing lean, I can tell you. But for me, it wasn't much crack, as we'd say in Ireland. Crack means fun for us Irish people. So I was like, oh, not really keen. But anyway, like a good soldier, those interim weeks when I first thought we have to implement lean, I was running 5S training workshops in the factory with the guys, but it was a struggle, I can tell you. It was the old-fashioned pushing a train. And then I got our local government agency, Invest Northern Ireland, in, because I thought that I could maybe get some money out of them to get at least a consultant, or maybe a continuous improvement facilitator head funded. So that was why I got these guys in. And we had a meeting, and it was going on for a couple hours. I already knew we weren't going to get any money. I was starting to switch off. And then they came out with the immortal words of, there's this company in Limavady. And like, for us people in Ireland, like Limavady, it's like nothing happens in Limavady. And they said, oh, they're world class at lean. Or sorry, they do stretches every day like the Japanese. And they're a bit like a cult, but they're world class at lean. And they showed me this video.
I'm at Seating Matters, and you are going to see the most incredible tour you've ever seen in your life. Buckle up, because they make awesome chairs that are going to help your elderly parents and your loved ones. Let's go.
So we had this video from, they showed me from Paul Akers' YouTube channel, and it was like, Paul who? Who's that guy? And the energy in the video really, really got me. So I worked in my uncle's wood factory when I was a kid, and it really didn't look what I'm seeing there. And I was really, really intrigued about the whole thing. And the whole energy really captivated me. And the Invest NI people gave me Ryan Tierney's number so I could WhatsApp him. And Ryan told me, you need to read this book, 2 Second Lean. And I downloaded the audio, and I had that book listened to completely within 48 hours. And I will give myself credit. I did get it first time around. It was like, oh my life, this is the answer. And the original message, the big message that I got was, instead of like 3 or 4 special people trying to impose lean on the organization, that this was going to be, everybody's going to be doing lean, every single person. And that really, really energized me, because I love leadership challenge. I really love it. And I love change like this. And so this was like, yes, I can do this. I'm really, really energized about it. And again, let's hope our audio works.
One is,
Yay.
forget about everyone else. Just focus on your waste and your problems. You have enough problems, enough waste for 10 lifetimes.
Remember, lean principle like 101, pull, not push. You will never successfully be able to push this on anyone, only if they want it. Pull, not push.
So that was the very first voicemail exchange that Paul Akers and I had. And but the question that he was trying to answer for me, I was like, wow, Paul, I really get this, but how do I get the ownership team to buy into this? And that was his answer. And the really cool thing is, I didn't realize it till after I'd finished the book, but this is like the origin of that title. Improvement starts with I. You're not going to push lean on to anybody. Create pull, not push. Don't worry about anybody else. You've got enough waste for 10 lifetimes. And that is the core of improvement starts with I. And it came from that first little exchange, which is pretty cool to have, I think. So yeah, instead of 3 or 4 people, everyone's going to do it. Improvement starts with I. And a message that often resonates with many of the readers of the book, I wasn't the owner. I wasn't the CEO. I was brought in to do a big job, but it was my energy. I decided we were going to do this. And I think you guys can all tell already, I am a big character. Like, if I decide to do it and the energy's there, it's pretty hard to stop me. So I took it on board. I'm going to get this happening. I am going to be an absolute lean maniac. And I was. And in the postscript to that introduction, the point that I really emphasized when I did the second edition was the top leader must be a lean maniac. And I was not the top leader, but I made myself the top leader. And I was practicing lean. I started to do meetings, stand-up meetings that didn't exist before. I started to make them happen. I started to bring waste thinking, started to talk about waste, started to talk about opportunities for improvement. And I hope in the Q&As we're going to get more into this improvement starts with I, leadership behavior, because it is the most important thing. And after mentoring dozens, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 100 over the years, that's the biggest problem. I often get asked, what's the biggest barrier? And the barrier is staring you back in the mirror. 99% of the time out of 100, you're the problem. Okay, so and that gets the other one. You can't buy lean. And that is it. You can't buy the kind of behaviors and culture shift if the leader isn't bought into it. And then, in fact, the entire senior management team need to be bought into it. So there we go, guys. That's just like how it all happened. I hope it's helpful for you. Yeah, I'm questions and answers. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to ask and discuss.
Thank you so much, Tom, for that. That was a great little introduction. And so anybody who doesn't know about Tom, everything in a nutshell there. So let's dive into the introduction. So before we even start, what inspired you to write a book? Because it's quite an amount of effort to, put a book together and put it out there, and you're now giving it away for free. What were you thinking, and so why? You talked about that. So.
It's a great question. For me, it was frustration, because I was already getting asked to help other people with their lean initiatives, and I knew Paul Akers' book is an amazing what. This is what we want to do, but I will say it's not a great how, and I saw a really high failure rate of people trying to implement that process, and because I'd done it several times with my bare hands, and had so much other organization change experience from previously in my career, I felt that I could lay out a path and an in-depth path of it's pretty prescriptive, the book. You know, I go into a lot of detail. And
Yeah.
that was done completely altruistically. I believe in karma. So I had the time, I think some of it coincided with COVID happening.
Yeah.
And I had the time on my hands. I felt the urge to do it, and I did. And some days when I wrote the book, like I could write practically an entire chapter in a day. And the book's
Wow.
like 50,000 words. So something divine drove me to do it. So now, yeah, and I'm very, very proud of the book, I have to say. I am.
Yeah. Well, I've downloaded it and listened to it multiple times. And every time you go through it again, something else picks up because you, as a person, has grown and you listen to it differently. And because you also struggle through a journey, you have certain obstacles that you're so focused on. So when that stuff comes up from the book, it's like, yes, change the people or change the people. You know what I mean? So it's
I
been,
hear that I hear that all the time. That people see themselves in the book. And the very first person that I shared it with is
yeah,
kind of funny. Because you know, you've written all that and you've not shared it with anybody. Like, is it crap? Like,
yeah,
you know, like I shared it with Paul Nolan of That Man Steals Sheds here in
yeah, yeah,
Ireland. And I
yeah,
gotta tell you his reaction. I'll bleep out the bits. But like, so Paul, what's it like? And he said, it's effing brilliant. And he had another friend, John Murphy, who practices lean, and he apparently left him a message saying, whatever the F you're reading, stop reading it and read this. You need to read this now. And Paul got the whole pull, not push. He'd been pushing lean. That was his problem. And he'd been really
yes,
struggling with it. And once he
yeah,
got that mindset shift, everything changed. So that was really encouraging to start with. And probably about half a dozen other people contributed to that initial edit. And it was a
yeah,
community project in that way because
yeah,
I never intended to make money from the book. I think you can make money from writing a book in lean, and
yeah,
I think if going back in time, I could have done, but I don't regret any of it. It was because of that, though I'm not getting paid for this. I'm
yeah,
just writing it because I wanted to and I felt I could serve. It just
yeah,
changes the complete spirit around it. So,
yeah,
and even the Signal group, I will give Paul Akers credit for this.
yeah,
We have it was initially Signal, it's now a WhatsApp group for people
yeah,
who are passionate about lean. And initially, I was thinking, oh, we could charge for that, you know, because other
yeah.
people charge like 150, $200 a month to be part of a group like that.
Wow.
And Paul Akers counseled me not to do that. And I'm
Mm,
so glad I listened to him because
yeah,
it's like nobody's expecting to be handed anything because they're paying money. We're all contributing
yeah.
to the group, and there is
That's
not none of that. It changes the whole vibe.
it's almost like when you pay people for to make improvements, right? You learn
Yeah,
how they think
it
of it as
becomes
a reward.
it becomes
Transaction.
transactional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you had this moment where you visited Ryan's factory, you listened to the book, and some people do that and they don't get it. What about that experience switched that light on in your brain and think, holy crap, this is it. I've found the
Uh-huh.
Holy Grail.
Yeah, I write about that moment. There was a specific moment, and I write about it in the book. So I'm there. We've just done the morning meeting at Seating Matters, and I am blown away. And I'm like corporate Tom, and I say to Ryan, "Hey, Ryan, what KPIs do you run the business with?" And Ryan looks at me and goes, like I just asked him about going to Mars or something, and like what? Nah, we don't really worry about any of that. All we do is focus on growing and developing the people, and then the rest just comes.
Yeah,
It's actually on video, captured on video, that
yeah,
exchange. And my face is like, and, and I just got it. I can't, I'll do my best to explain, but I just got it in that moment. It was like my whole business life back into the automotive is KPI driven, results
yeah.
driven, results driven. And what I got in that moment, no, we're looking in the wrong place. It's
Mm,
process driven. Because if we have great people and great processes, we can't help but having great results. And so
exactly.
that I really got that. And yeah, that changed me forever, that moment.
That's amazing because I think people that become lean maniacs, like for myself, it was an experience of just this epiphany of, wow, look at that impact. Look at what this can do to my life and people around me. And I think when people just see tools and things and just numbers, you can't connect with human beings. You know what I mean? Because like it's about the culture. And I think you being surrounded, now this is my take of it, but I think you being surrounded in Ryan's morning meeting and you feel that energy and people are sharing improvements and things, it's just a whole different ball game compared to when you're on the factory floor and you're like, okay, what's your KPI? Have you reached it or not? Okay, well, we need to do better kind of thing. It's like that's pushing, almost not, not pulling.
100%. Really, really 100%.
You write in the introduction, you can't buy lean, you have to be lean yourself. This for me is like one of the most important quotes in that introduction. So can you elaborate on that concept?
Well, you can, so for example, right, people think, right, we want lean, we'll get some consultants in and they're going to, make us lean. And it's consultants have a place. I have lots of consultant friends. If you say, we'll be Gillette's for a moment, because one of my consultant friends that did a massive project with Gillette, and you want to get 40% more razors falling off the line than fell off it last year. You get your consultants in to work with your people, and yeah, that can happen. And it can be a really good investment for the organization to do that. But are we going to change the culture? Getting our consultants in? No. And the other thing I see people doing is they'll recruit somebody to, do lean. And again, when the leader's not taking any ownership for that, it's not going to work. So traditionally in corporate world, leaders think that they're, let's say, showing support when they allocate budget to an initiative.
Project.
And that's simply not enough. And I want to really dive deep into this because it's so important. It's the leadership behavior that matters. So it's the day-to-day decision making. It's the where you show your priority to your people. That's what drives this whole thing. You can have your morning meeting and preach about respect for people and everything else.
Yeah.
And then the leader goes outside the morning meeting and berates somebody for making a mistake. And the whole thing just falls to bits. So the change has to start with the leader and the leadership team, I will also say. It's utterly critical that you get alignment in the senior team. And my change the people quote is targeted at them. I try to clarify. I've had that where people think like, firing somebody at the bottom level that can be necessary, but it's not really what that quote is intended to describe. It's you need to get that alignment at that level, and senior people have to be the expectation has to be that they know that they have to behave in a lean manner and to show the values and live the values, and then you can change culture. If you're not doing that, you're not going to get any sustainable change.
So such a great answer, Tom. So the title "Improvement Starts with I." Is there any interesting story behind that? Did you hear it from somewhere, or just like pop in your head?
I think I did hear it back when I was practicing lean in the first organization. I think I came across it, and we used it as a quote of the day, but I don't think it's attributed to anybody. And I actually had written the entire book before the title became evident. And I was looking for different titles and so on and so forth. And then I really got that it expressed what the book was, and it's got alliteration and sounds good. But I quote it all the time to people when they're, I'm struggling. You can nearly always say, well, improvement starts with I, no matter what the issue is.
I just want to get back to that. Like that, the title is so great because it really is improvement starts with I. I imagine you're also a massive consumer of information. You probably love to go through books and learn and apply it, because most really great leaders develop themselves to become good leaders, right?
It's very interesting because I used to be like a book a week type person.
Yeah.
And now I'm absolutely not that person. What happens to me now these days, I say 2 or 3 consequential books a year, and I'll listen to them on audio a few times. I'll buy the physical book. I'll go through the physical book with a highlighter, and I'll really, really try to get something consequential out of it. So,
Wow.
and I feel that, and my own personal experiences, that's a lot better. It's a lot deeper than the guru I follow spiritually calls that kind of thing intellectual indigestion.
Yeah.
Whenever you just keep eating and you don't get any time to digest it, I think it's much, much better to pick a few things that really resonate with you and go, I can really get something from this, and
Yeah.
dive deep into it and make some change in your behavior and your thinking. It's a better approach. But no, I'm mad into self-improvement. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just a different approach these days.
And that's for me as well. Since I've been 14 or 15, I hated reading. I hated it. And then for some reason, my father was actually doing Amway, the multi-level marketing thing.
My
And so
brother did that.
yeah, so they pumped the books, right? So we're in the car
Yeah.
and we're listening to audiobooks and we're listening to, all these great speakers. And then something just flipped in me. I'm like, I really like this. So then I started listening and reading books. And then from there, it's like, I just love this. So I just love being leadership, business, people, psychology, all that stuff. So
That's
anyway,
kind of funny because I believe Ryan Tierney's parents were in Amway as well.
there we
They
go.
did a similar thing.
But it's a people development system as well. If you think about it,
Yeah.
they also develop they've almost got this, you can sell the product, but build the people. Going into the engagement, improvement and results equation, I want to dive a bit deeper into that. Tell us the origin story. How did you recognize that and how did you put it together and why is it so impactful? Because it really is.
Yeah, what I saw repeatedly when I was helping people with lean was, where's the improvements? Where's the improvements? For 1 month, we've been doing this for a month. Where are the improvements? When the results haven't came yet. And it was, well, no, because it's that results oriented thinking again. So that the results are the outcome, they're not the focus. The things, I think of it like stoking a fire. It's like
Yeah.
standing in front of the fireplace, there's no logs in there, you haven't lit anything, and go, why is it not warm? And so the engagement, education, and recognition part, the engagement is like the lighting of the fire. It's
Right.
like if there's no spark, if people aren't like engaged to be receptive to the process, nothing's going to happen. Doesn't matter how much education or recognition you do. If people aren't engaged in the process, that's why it's first. So you have to get engagement, right? Then the education part, it's because, again, I saw people missing that. It's like, oh, we have a morning meeting. And but like all we do is talk about production. And like and we're not doing any kind of education. Education can be at all kinds of levels. Education can just be, let's start talking about waste or start talking about opportunities to improve. You don't even have to explicitly dive into reciting the 8 waste, which I'm not a big fan of, by the way.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of that. It's like, oh, I need to go and no. It's a lot of people that work in factories didn't have a good time in school. You've got to understand that. And when it starts to feel like teacher pupil, a lot of people go, nah, I'm not into this. And so, but education in the sense of we're learning to see waste together, that's super important. Otherwise, how the heck are you ever going to get any improvements? And then as you go, we got engagement, now we're educating, now we're getting some improvements happening, recognizing that behavior. And again, in the book, I'm pretty prescriptive. Try to be 90% positive and 10% not so positive, because that recognition part is also there to keep the rope tight. So once you've got that stuff happening, now improvements and results can happen, right? So that's but in a nutshell, think of it like a stove, and the engagement, education, and recognition is the lighting lighting up, putting the fuel in, letting it grow, letting it get warm, and then now you get some heat, and the heat is improvement of the results.
So obviously, if we're talking about improvements with you as the leader have to be engaged every day. You have to look for opportunities to find improvements.
Yeah.
But then also, if you have a team of like 50 people, if you're going to go to every single person, it's going to take you longer or not. So you should focus on your core leadership team that you
Yep.
like direct reports and then light the fire with them and work closely? Is that what
Well,
you advise?
well, here's the thing. I found out by accident that engaging with every single person can be a really good thing before you start the morning meeting stuff. And I know that sounds like overkill, but I'll tell you the story, right? At that first company, we had a piece rate system, and it was really destructive. People had their own machines. This is my machine. I can get rates on this machine. Nobody else is coming on this machine. I'm not going on that other one because it'll take me 3 weeks to get up to rate on it. And I'm not going to lose
Yeah.
money while I'm learning. And they wouldn't stop to train each other. They wouldn't stop to fix stuff. They wouldn't, just absolutely no chance of lean happening in that environment.
Yeah.
So we had to change the payment structure, which was a big burning the ships moment. That's a big deal in any company. So it took us a couple of months or maybe 3 months, both persuading the management on my end and coming up with a new structure. We might dive into the structure later because I do think the structure was really useful in long-term motivating people to improve. But we had to sit down with every single staff member because we were changing their terms and conditions.
Yeah.
And I didn't plan that. That was an accident. It was
Right.
because we had to change their terms and conditions. But I had to eyeball every single person and go, we're changing how we pay you because we're doing lean and we're serious about this. And they also got to vent some of the things in the company that they weren't happy with, and such and such got a promotion when I should have got it, and that happened like 5 years ago. And they got to do a lot of venting, and we listened, and it was myself and the two of the owners had to sit with every single person. And I feel that I accidentally found a secret sauce there because one, it was showing we're not effing about here. This is a thing we're doing. And everybody got to express where they were. And we also changed the structure. Most people come out of that payment structure meeting winning because we had a time and attendance bonus that did nothing. It was part of how I changed the payment structure.
Yeah.
We upped everybody by about 50 pence on their hourly rate. We got rid of the time and attendance bonus because 80% of the people regularly got it and the other 20% never got it.
Yeah.
And so we just got rid of it. It wasn't doing anything. And we spread it across everybody. And so we got rid of the time and attendance bonus, but now, everybody's getting an automatic little bump. And that was also good. But it didn't cost the company a penny. And we also changed the payment structure at the same time and showed that if you engaged with lean, made improvements, multi-skilled, that you could basically get 50% more money if you followed the path. And again, that was also super motivational because I regard myself as very fortunate. I've been a minimum wage employee, not knowing if I'd ever be anything else. And that gift has stayed with me my whole career. Imagine you go to somewhere and you're in an organization, you're not on much money, and you've no visibility of anything better. That you can go, if I do this, that, and the other, I can have pretty decent money. And people got energized by that. And it solved a bunch of problems because we used to have like, my dog's sick, I need a pay rise. And no, it's like, we put it up, it was about 12 foot by 6 foot on the canteen wall. That's the payment structure with numbers on it and everything. And that really said, we're serious. And it really said positively to the team, here's a path for your growth. And I was able to stand in front of that team and go, if every single person here is on £15 an hour and not 10, we as a company will be super happy because we're going to have a world-class workforce. And it's so important. Nobody wants to talk about money with lean. And I'm absolutely against paying people per improvement. That absolutely sucks, is really stupid. But giving them a long-term path, if you develop yourself, if you do the learning, if you buy into lean, you make the improvements tangibly, if you multi-skill yourself across a bunch of machines, you're going to be here. And I think that's massively powerful.
But not every company is going to be able to just change their payment structure, but they have to look at an opportunity to recognize people and lift them up as well and say,
I'd argue against that. It's like your payment structure is I would never look to it to be your primary motivation. Your primary motivation needs to be intrinsic, that like, I want to do a good job here because they're like, this is a great company and I enjoy being here. I can contribute.
Yeah, you want to make your work environment easier, right?
But if your payment structure isn't serving you, like in my case, it was an extreme example, but to really look at your key performance indicators and your payment structure and go, is this driving the behavior that we want?
Yeah.
And worse still, in my case, it was actively destroying the behavior that I wanted. You need to think about changing it. And so it's like that was a big deal, but it really was, it was absolutely critical in how we implemented. Absolutely critical.
Interesting. All right, let's go to Sean for a question. Sean, are you ready to ask Tom your questions?
Yes, mate. Hey, Tom, how are you?
All right, Sean.
Coming on board
Good
again.
to see you.
Having read your books, listened to them multiple times, listened to YouTube, all the rest of it, I've never actually heard you once state that you had staff that weren't getting it, so you actually thought that maybe you were doing something wrong with your processes, so you had to change your processes to suit, to engage them more.
Absolutely.
Have you actually had that happen?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Lots at a micro level and even to some extent at a macro level. So take that first company. We were getting to the everybody has to do the morning meeting thing. We were at that point, you know, we'd about 50% of the company had done the morning meeting. And we were really struggling from there to get it to the next level. But we had easily 80% of the workforce didn't speak English as a first language. Easily 30 or 40 could hardly speak English. And they were terrified. And that was just going and talking to people and understanding this isn't practical. It's not even fair. No, we're not doing that. It has to be voluntary if you're going to do the morning meeting. And I would say voluntary in air quotes because I would like put like pressure on individually. I'd see somebody that was really getting into lean and really engaging. And I would go, look, you can do this. You can do the morning meeting. You know, I think it'd be great for you. And, you know, I wouldn't be coercing them, but I would be smiling with a smile on my face, coercing them to get stuff done. But no, I think it's super important, Sean, that when things aren't working, you need to make changes. It's like, and I think there's much too much dogma around in our 2-second lean world. You know, you must do this, you must do that. You must, for example, everybody needs to do the morning meeting. In that example where I'm talking about, it just wasn't practical. We'd have really turned some people massively off. Yeah. And instead, our morning meeting had like basically like half a dozen slots. And even the people who couldn't speak English could still lead the stretches. That wasn't optional. Everybody had to do that. Adjusting and varying that approach and reading the room and reading your organization when things are, you know, not going the way you want and being able to change path is absolutely critical. You really have to do that. And so hopefully that helps answer your question.
Yeah, totally. It's you know, so many different personalities in the world.
Yeah.
You know, in the workforce, you've got to try and accommodate everyone. But my second question sort of leads off that is, have you ever actually just given it a break with a particular company, gone, okay, we're putting this aside for a while, let's change focus, and then let's come back to it again?
Yeah, one of the companies I consulted for were doing 2-second lean and everybody hated it. That's the truth. People were really, really aggressively not liking it. I said to them, this was like, I was seeing this in like mid-November, and I said, like, take a break, give everybody, we're going to completely restructure what's happening with how they're doing the morning meetings and improvement time and everything else. But they had like a 5 or 6 week break. Because people needed it. It just wasn't working. And again, that's in the same spirit as my last comment there. If it's not working, you need to change it. Then they come back in the new year and it was much, much better. And I was coaching the team to listen to their people. At the end of the day, if people aren't engaged in the morning meeting and it's not working, you need to change it up. And that can be a two-way thing. It's not always the morning meeting. Sometimes it's the people you need to really zero in on and understand, you know, what is it that's not working for that individual. It's not you have to change the whole system for 2 or 3 people, but you need to go and address the problems. Actually, you know that one with, I was saying we were forced to speak to every single person because we were changing the conditions. I consulted for another company and they'd done their morning meeting, and they brought me down to be like the flag waver of, we're doing morning meetings. We've Tom Hughes here. And after the morning meeting, I went for a walk around the shop floor, and a lady pulled me aside and really gave me the Alex Ferguson hairdryer treatment. Give me it. Like, I wasn't the management, gave me it. It's like, and we had 20 years of frustration, and like, she doesn't speak to such and they don't speak to me, and they get promoted and I should have got that promotion, and God bless her. I sat there and I took it all, even though it wasn't mine to take. I took the whole thing, and I went back to the management team. I said, look, you've got some serious, serious ill will out there. And not standing up there like going, hey, respect for people, morning meeting, yeah, rah, rah. It just looks bloody stupid. You need to go and talk to the people that you know you've problems with, and you have to do it. Astonished because I didn't have the full inside skin on what was going on in the company, but do you see where I'm coming from? People people don't think this stuff through. Such and such over there hates such and such, and if we're gonna start doing this whole process while all these horrible politics and grievances are around, no amount of morning meeting is going to solve those. You've got to go and address them.
Totally
people are all different, and people all have their own history. And you know, that lady, I was really genuinely respectful of her. I really respected her. I thought it was super courageous for her to do what she did. And I had massive admiration. And so yeah, big thing. Like, I think lean is connection. One of the words, I've said this lots of times before, lean is all about connecting. It's about connecting with your people, and your people building connections with each other. And when you've got all those dysfunctions going on, you have to deal with them.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Sean. That was a great question. And I just want to add to that, like what Tom was saying about connection. You know, the two pillars of lean is respect for people and resources and continuous improvement. And with either one of those missing, it doesn't stand up, right? This word respect is thrown around so easily, but I think people don't actually get it. And once they get it, and the improvement starts with I actually kicks in, they realize how badly they've treated their people and how much burden they've put their people on.
Absolutely.
And when they realize that, then you get the shift, because people feel it. You can't fake it. You can't buy respect. You have to earn it.
Edwin, like I was saying to you, one of the biggest gifts of my career was 6 months when I came out of college, and I was on a production line not knowing if I'd ever get off it. And it's always stayed with me. You had people walk past you as if you're invisible. Yeah. And like, you're there, oh, like, you know, I'm here, I'm a human. And and like, people do that all the time. It doesn't make them terrible people, but to be able to be aware of that, just how you carry yourself as you walk through an office, that is respect for people, acknowledging their presence. It doesn't have to, you know, those really basic things. And that to me is where it starts. It's just like acknowledging and connect, just saying hello. It's where it starts. One of my friends here, it's how he started. Paul Vallely at Cocoon Rugs started Lean because he didn't want to own a company that he couldn't leave, because, you know, it's his company. He can't just resign and head on. And it was because when he was walking through his warehouse, he was saying hello, and people were just going, wouldn't even look at him. So respect for people starts there.
Phil, do you want to ask Tom your question?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Really appreciate it, and love your smile and energy. It's awesome. So my question is, you know, look into the book, and, you know, I sort of fit into this very much. Everyone wants everyone else to change. You know, fundamentally, like, I know improvement starts with I, but it is the whole organization. And so, you know, it's all about change management. You know, we're not just we want to take an organization that's perhaps not performing well and totally change it. So we've got to bring the other people along with us. You know, how do we get the other people to want to change? And what I've sort of observed is, you know, for people that are close to you that we want to get them to change, you've actually really got to have quite a radical change to get them to sit up and take note. You know, the 2-second lean, we're more about these small incremental changes. How do we get the other people to sit up and say, hey, this is what we want. Because if they don't want it, it'll never, ever take off.
Where that expression comes from, it's actually on the back of the book, is, again, I've seen that so often, like right through my career. It would all be fine if sales would only get, why do they keep taking these stupid orders that we can't fulfill in time? We've no chance for that lead time that they took. It would all be good if engineering made designs that we could easily make and blah blah. So that's a very, very common thing. So nobody's looking at it going, oh, I wonder how we could improve. So I think as a leader, once you take this decision to go on this path, is to, when you see that behavior going on, is to pull them up. And that's where I would say the biggest single leadership behavior that I would recommend, and this has only really become clear to me in the last few months, a leader being able to go, stop and fix this. So when you see but if they would only sort their lives out, and no, what are you doing? What are you doing to contribute? And that's not being too coercive. That's just like you start to stop behaviors that have been in your company for a long time. And the thing with myself, again, being really candid and honest, often I've been the new guy. And it's easier for the new guy. I will say that when you come in and you're able to see things with a fresh set of eyes, and you go, oh, there's all the dysfunction. Whereas whenever you're in the middle of the dysfunction, maybe you created it all, it's like maybe more difficult for you. But for myself, the first change would be to, when you see dysfunction, calling it out, and when you see opportunities to improve, calling them out and stopping and fixing stuff. And then people start to go, well, hold on, we haven't been doing that before. And we start to get change. Actually, I sat beside, I can't name them too specifically, a Toyota leader, and he runs a factory. So for Toyota. And he was describing to me how they made a big change, even in Toyota, where the company had been totally focused on line stoppages. And even when I was in automotive all those years ago, that was our number one focus, line stoppage. £45,000 an hour if you stop Toyota. So that was the big thing that nobody wanted to do. And what he did, they had like 70 something right first time coming off the line at their factory. And he said, right, okay, well, I'm not doing that anymore. And he started to talk only about quality. And when he did that, when they would talk about a line stop in one of his meetings, he wouldn't dive into it on purpose. He would skate over that, quality, dive deep. And so the KPIs never changed. It was his behavior that changed. And then all of a sudden, over the 4 years, everybody else starts to see quality as the number one thing, because that's the way he's treating it. And they got their quality up to 97% plus. It's top 3 in the world for Toyota now. And all the other KPIs have improved as well. But if you see what that's doing, he's driving the change. And in my specific circumstances in that first company, we didn't have any stand-up meetings when I first came. So just being like the change agent, right, we're going to have production meeting, and every sale's going to have their own stand-up meeting every day. And I would attend the big one, and I would rotate myself around the sale meetings. And I'd just start going, oh, there's an opportunity to improve there. And I'd start using language like that. This is all in the 3-month run up to morning meeting. And I would start, oh, right, well, how can we make some improvements? And that was starting to permeate into the organization before we even started the morning meeting thing. So it's all those small behaviors and picking up. I'd say the biggest thing is the candor when you see behavior that is not in line with the direction you want to go in now. And just starting to gently pick that up to start with, just gently pick it up. But as that behavior starts to repeat, be less gentle about it.
And I guess the other thing is just being patient. So, we want everyone else to change, and then we want change to happen today.
Brilliant. Phil, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's another massive issue that I see, is people in general want everything too fast. And your culture got built up over years, maybe decades, and it's not going to change in a week or two. You can't make big changes in a month or two. I've seen that. But to really sustain the change, you're into lots of months to change all those habits.
Really appreciate that, Tom.
You're welcome. Lovely to see you, Phil.
Great question, Phil. One thing I took away from that is I've heard stop and fix close to 1,000 times probably. But the way that you said it, Tom, because at the moment there's so many problems going on, and it's like, yeah, I'm not stopping and fixing because the problem is maybe so big you can't solve it right there. But just stopping and having that mindset, it's okay. Because I know I've had that feeling many times. You want to stop and fix, but then you're like, oh, but I got to do work. I got to do this. But that's actually work. But you feel so bad of actually stopping and fixing because you have all this other work to do. But the more you do that, the more you can don't have all this stuff piling up. So that's a takeaway for me.
Mhm.
I've got a question from Evan. Evan, do you want to ask it?
Yeah.
Tom?
G'day, Tom. I just want to say
Yeah.
thanks for writing the book. It was a massive eye opener on how culture is important for Lean. Yeah, question I've got is introducing Lean to a new team. So maybe looking to start morning meetings. How do I spark some of that motivation and engagement? You talked about genuinely getting to know the team and that. I've been doing that. I've been looking at their processes with them and getting to know them on the shop floor, and I work closely with them. But have you got any tips or experiences where I can just spark some engagement?
Are you new in the organization, or have you been
New,
there a while?
I'm new to the team. Yeah, I've only been with the team about 4 weeks. So
All right. Whoa. Yeah, that's a challenge because you're coming in, and I have another person I'm mentoring through this process right now. For me, I'd focus if I was coming into a new organization, I'd focus on earning my stripes
yeah,
and really understanding the lay of the land before I would start to go changing stuff.
yeah,
That's my advice to you. So, for example, when I came into that first company, I already had the day one we're going to implement lean. I spent 2 weeks every morning working on machines with the people. Like I didn't stand and watch them do their process. I think there's far too much of that. I've done that twice in my career. I
yeah,
went and worked on the line and worked in different areas of the factory and got to really understand the struggles of the people. Like, for
yeah,
example, in that first company, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't know that the tools were absolutely rubbish. There was no work instructions. You couldn't, like, I wouldn't have understood that culture of get off my machine, mate. That's my machine. And like, I wouldn't have understood all those problems and been able to empathize with the people. I'd have been like a management person looking at it. And I think you get a whole other level of connection when you go and you literally do the work. That would be my advice to you. Is like if you haven't already done it, go and
yeah.
work
I'm
in
in the process.
literally on the machine in the process. Understand like because you've got a different set of eyes than a lot of the people who are on the machines. They don't even know. They've just grown accustomed to the machines don't work. The tools are crap. I don't have the tools for half the thing. I don't even have a brush to sweep the floor with that. There's only 4 in the whole factory, etc. And really, really starting to understand that at a granular level. And you're going to connect with the people better because you're just one of them. And you're going to make that connection that from there, they'll respect you for doing that. And you can connect with them in a way that when you want to bring new ideas into the situation, well, Evan knows, he knows all about that. And, you're speaking from a place where you can really empathize. That's what I've done myself over the years. And it's really worked for me. And I would say as well, if you're a leader, like say my French factory experience of that, I'd been told that the shop floor was a bunch of militant frogs who didn't want to do any work and they were lazy and wish that the UK management wished that they could have closed the place decades before. And what I found out when I went in there, amazing group of people, absolutely amazing, really smart, intelligent, middle management, an absolute shower of crap. We had to do a massive clear out of the middle management team before we were going to do any big change. That's my advice. Go and really understand before you start to shout about things that you're going to change. Really, really understand and connect with that group. And then you've got the respect. And when you start to go, well, yeah, I think this would be a good thing to do, etc., you're going to be starting from a much different place.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Okay, I've got a question here from James, who couldn't attend the learning club today. He says, traditionally, I've seen lean introduction courses used in workplaces or other forms of classroom training to introduce lean concepts to employees and leaders. I've found this to be a waste of time and would much rather use the morning meeting to do micro educational learning every single day. Does Tom think there's a time and a place for classroom style training? And what is Tom's favorite way to approach education to a team that has seen lean, been introduced to them many times before, and never seen any results? Quite a lot of questions there.
Well, yeah, but first of all, classroom training by itself has a place. I have seen that when I was in automotive all my life. I would say, without exaggerating, I would say 10 days for 6 months, we'd be on a training course of some kind. So it was literally a day or two a month we were getting trained. And it was around structured problem solving, statistical process control, technical quality stuff to do our jobs better. And it helped us do our jobs better. It didn't drive a culture shift or anything, but it helped us be much, like that's why I was able to be a quality manager in the UK automotive industry at the age 25, because I was trained within an inch of my life, right? And I also had the hard work pressure to go with it. So I think that classroom training, if you need your people to be better at their jobs, formal training is a thing. Like, for example, at that first 2 Second Lean company, we sent all the team leaders on supervisory management courses in the night, that at night school. Company paid for that because we wanted to lift their level of supervisory management. We were expecting them to be team leaders, and that's not going to happen by itself by, talking about transportation waste in the morning meeting. You often need both. If you want your culture to shift and just lift your general level, 2 Second Lean is the best thing for that in the universe. It's a fantastic tool for that, but it will only get you so far. That's one thing I've seen. And so, for example, I spent a lot of time with British Rotherm's leader, Oliver Conger, last week, and he gave a presentation about how Toyota they've worked with Toyota over the last few years. They'd been practicing 2 Second Lean for 4 years. Then they thought they were really great. And then Toyota came in and started to show them how they could go to a whole new other level. And a big part of that was sending members of their team away for almost week-long courses at Toyota to elevate both their leadership skills and their technical lean skills. So it's definitely a two-way thing. But I think that if you want to move your culture, the morning meeting style 2 Second Lean approach is fantastic. But you also need to go to a really high level. You also need the other stuff.
Okay. Yeah, it's like you say, the dogma, you can't just one or the other. You have to find what works for you, and every company and every team is different. Okay, and then James's other question was, the workplace I am in currently uses monetary vouchers as a form of recognition. This has trained the workforce to always expect a handout when they believe they have gone above and beyond. How would Tom undo the situation? How does Tom recommend people be recognized?
Well, yeah, we already covered that. I don't think that's a great idea. Paying people per improvement kind of thing isn't a good thing. If it was me, it's hard to motivate people by taking stuff away as well. So it's not going to help. Like, that thing we used to do for you, you don't get that anymore. Just do it because we asked you. I don't think that's going to work.
You got to replace it with something else. You got to
replace it with something else. So I think that would be my advice. I don't know what the something else is in that situation, but yes, just taking it away is not going to help by itself. So replace it with what? And I think there's a lot of creativity in this stuff. So, for example, work out that thing costs you like a few grand a year just for fun. The previous system cost you a few grand a year. Well, we're going to spend a few grand a year doing this other thing now. And so it's like we're not taking anything away. And then we're going to maybe look at how we promote people, for example. So if you're looking for a pay rise, you need to be able to show X, Y, and Z. If you're going to get promoted, like Brian Myers, really good lean friend of mine at Fat American Manufacturer, and he was telling me they have their Lean All-Stars Club, and nobody's going to get a promotion if you're not in the Lean All-Stars Club. Simple. Said straight out loud to the entire organization. So that's saying a lot about what you're, trying to it provides some extrinsic motivation as well as the intrinsic.
Can I just say, I thought he answered the question earlier when he was talking about giving the extra 50p or whatever it was
Yeah.
to actually change that system which
That-
you have
that-
back there. That would be
for me,
the way of doing it.
that's like your big change, you know, if you're
Yeah.
going to address your whole reward system. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. I was just like looking at this micro, how they get away from micro things. But yeah, the right answer that I found myself is, that's why I was saying don't shy away from the payment structure. When you were kind of pushing back on me, not everybody can change their payment structure. I think that if it's doing you harm, you definitely should. If it's not assisting you in the behavior you want, looking at the payment structure creatively, it doesn't mean that you're just going to sort of throw a load of money at people. Just changing how the whole thing works, especially for how people progress from where they are now to their next level.
And I want to add, if there's any leader out there listening to this, there's a fantastic book called Punished by Rewards by Alfie Kohn. And he actually goes into psychological exercises done with groups where they realized by giving people monetary rewards, they're taking away the intrinsic motivation and creativity. So it's an amazing book. So if anybody because I completely against commission and all that stuff. So it's Punished by Rewards, Alfie Kohn, fantastic book. And it's actually research backed things. It's not just somebody saying, hey, this is what we do, kind of thing. I want to actually go do something different today. Phil, can you give me one takeaway? Just to give me 30 seconds. What's the one takeaway that you've taken away from this learning club?
I think for me, to be honest, is being patient. So everyone wants everyone else to change, and we want the change to happen right now. But realizing that and they talk about a journey, but it is a journey, and just being patient and with the long-term thinking.
Patience, I love it. Chris, I know you're new to this, but do you want to take one thing that you've taken away from this?
Yeah, just to realize that there's a whole support network out there. I think it's fantastic, and I have to say, Tom, I read the introduction today, and I was really taken back by it. I'm looking forward to this journey. So, just want to say thank you to
Caleb. One takeaway from you, 30 seconds.
It was really good. Actually, I just received a lot of encouragement. Just the improvement starts with I. We've had some big changes. The other guys know all about it. Implementing Lean has been difficult in the new setup. So I work with my son, and he's really a Lean maniac at the moment. We're doing Lean just together in the mornings, and it's just encouraging that we can actually make that difference. Just got that encouragement. So yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome.
You're
Sean,
welcome.
what about you? One takeaway.
Well, just backing up my own thoughts anyway, that sometimes it's that personality clashes or the fact that people just don't get it. In our staff, there's probably only 30% of people that really want to contribute, but it's making them the lean leaders now, getting them engaged so that other people can see where it could lead. I was contemplating taking a break from it because we'd only just started. We're setting up a new factory, only been into this 6 months. But I think we'll just persist. We'll just keep going and plod away. But no, thank you. Thanks, Tom, again. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming in.
You're welcome,
Evan.
Sean. Very welcome.
One takeaway from you.
Yeah, probably just be genuine about building that connection with the staff, and then I can come at things from a position of respect that I've built up. So yeah, just be genuine about that, I think.
Awesome. Genuine. Tony, you want to say one takeaway?
Yeah, hi, Eden. Look, I think just encouraging and also gives me motivation to, I guess, want to work on myself more, because I think that's the main challenge, is how you interact with people. And I guess figuring out when maybe somebody that you've put in a leadership position is not the right person, and being able to make the hard decision about what to do there as well.
So my takeaway from this is, like I said before, I've heard the saying, stop and fix what bugs you, so many times. And I do it, but today it was at a different level. Like, I still think, no, I can do it later, but then you just have to stop and do it now, So I think we had Declan on the Learning Club a couple of months ago, and he says, people just talk. Don't put it on a list. Don't just do it. Okay.
Absolutely.
And it really is about that. All right, Tom, we've taken enough of your morning. Thank you so much again for giving us your wisdom, and we really appreciate it here. And then we're going to spread this out to the world so everybody can learn and grow together. In 2 weeks' time, we'll have
the legendary Dave Lalonic.
The next week, we've got the legendary Dave Lalonic.
Brothers from another mother, as he'll say.
We'll be covering
great.
candor there. So thanks again, Tom.
Nobody better for candor than Dave. That's for sure. Awesome. I'll be really looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing how your weekly chapters roll out. I'm really honored, and really, it's just such a compliment that you guys are doing this. And I think it's great to get that word out. Thank you so much.